Welcome back to the foundry and to round 2 of Project Brut 95 F250. So there's been this train. So there's been a slight change of plans. You know, I said I was going to put side boxes on it, and I'd love to. I love side boxes. They're so convenient. In my view, a cross box, it's kind of a pain in the neck because you can't reach anything in it. That's why I like side boxes so much. But lo and behold, one of the trailers that I have to transport from job to job is a gooseneck. And it's a shop-built gooseneck. And it's too low, the neck is too low. I don't have enough clearance for side boxes. So those are off the table. Next thing I gotta do is round up a gooseneck hitch because Brut doesn't have a gooseneck hitch. Now my 1-ton has got a gooseneck hitch, but it also has a service bed and the boxes are too high for this particular trailer. So now I'm shifting focus to round up a gooseneck hitch and fab up some mounts to put it on Brut. So we'll see how it goes. Well, thankfully it didn't take long to round up a hitch. One of the guys that works next door happened to have one. 2 issues. One, it's off of a late model Dodge 3500. So in no way is it going to fit on my truck without modification. And 2, it's way back there and there's not even a footpath to get to it. So I'm going to spelunk over all this heavy iron and try to manhandle that thing out. So I've got a truck over on my yard that is a mock-up truck. It doesn't have a bed on it. It'll be super easy to set this hitch on there and see what I need to do to make it work. Uh-oh, somebody lost their lawnmower trailer. Made a heck of a racket going across this bridge. All right, so I drug this heavy thing out back on the yard, got it on my mock-up truck. And at first glance, it appears that I could make these brackets work. The problem I'm having now is this right here is too tall to fit between my bed and the frame. So if I were to notch this to where it would set down on this frame, it would take a lot of the strength out of this flat bar, which is all that is. Now this side has got angle. So what I think I'm going to do is scrap these mounts, scrap this bar, and bolt this center section to another piece of angle like that one, and then notch the angle, set it down on the frame, and just weld that thing up. And I might put in a brace. Unfortunately, I'll have to pull the bed off the truck and to get all this done probably. It'd just be easier. Not sure just yet. I'm going to look at it, but I think that's the game plan going forward. It's certainly less expensive than buying another hitch or a mount kit. Man, that trailer made a heck of a noise. I thought it was going to come down on my head. Yeah, they're getting it hooked back up. Doesn't look like it's tore up too bad. Well, it's difficult to see, but the bed is caved in right here. It's pushed down. It's more so in the center. And that's from that right there. See how it's kind of caved in? So when I get the bed off, I'm going to have to do something about that. There's really no room under there to take a hammer and beat it back. Got a couple of helpers out here. It's really pretty easy to pull the bed off of these types of trucks. You've got basically get your taillight wire harness unhooked and can't hardly see it, but it's up in there. There's one plug that unhooks that. Now these lights I've got in the bumper, they run through the frame, so I don't have to unhook those. Just the tail lights and all these lights on the headache rack. You can see I'm pulling these wires out where I can get to them, and I'm gonna mark these and cut them. And then it's just 6 bolts to get the bed off, and I've got them soaking in penetrating oil right now. I've had this bed off before. All 6 bolts came out easy except for this one. They're like carriage bolts, smooth tops or smooth heads. So I welded a big nut on this one so I can actually hold a wrench on it while I get underneath it and spin it off with an impact. And be sure not to forget, you've got to unhook your fuel necks with these bolts. Mine's just got one on this side. This has been torn out before. I think somebody was doing a burnout and blew a tire and it ripped out the fender brace. Oh, on this truck I've got this auxiliary water tank right here. It's where you put water in with a water hose, and holds 10 gallons. I've got an electric pump on it so you can use it to spray stuff. That pump is shot. I've got another one coming. So I just went ahead and cut the wires going to it. And just the power in the ground is all that is. So yeah, I'm gonna get these bolts buzzed out. Then I'm gonna rig up something on the front of this forklift to, like a jib. I'm gonna put it over the top of the bed, use ratchet straps, lift the bed straight up off the truck, and then drive the truck out from under it and set the bed on some 55-gallon drums I've got. And of course I've got a flat tire. Thing sat under the awning for 6 months, tire was fine. I used it once and now it's flat. So I gotta get some air in that. So this is what I came up with to lift the bed. I've strapped that, this is basically two 2x4s screwed together that I had as a post I was using for something. Anyway, I strapped it to that fork and just ran a couple ratchet straps over. And you'll notice I'm not perfectly centered the bed, and that is because that headache rack is staying on the bed and it's real heavy. So hopefully it will lift up straight, and or this will prove to be a fatal flaw. One of the two. Wouldn't you know, I forgot my keys. worked out pretty well. Now, as far as addressing this sunken in part of the bed right there, you can see I'm gonna have to push it up right here. It's got to go up to get me enough clearance. I'm also probably gonna have to cut that heat shield out. It's gonna be in the way. So I'm either gonna have to take a sledgehammer from under here and try to beat it into submission, or get creative and either tilt the bed up on the front here, tilt it up this way and get a good swing at it that way, or maybe get real creative and let it down on a post or something and get up top and jump up and down and try to push that back up. I don't know exactly what I'm going to have to do this just yet. So while I'm thinking about what to do with that bed, I'm going to go ahead and pull this truck around up to my shop so I can think about what I got to do to weld that hitch on. All right, got some good news. The heat shield that was under here was actually bolted on, so I didn't have to cut anything, and I was able to leave that other heat shield. Are you ready for more good news? I was able to beat the ever-living heck out of the bottom of this with a sledgehammer, and I beat it totally into submission. So you remember how dished out that was, and that should give us plenty of room for our hitch. So that worked out really well. It was easier than I thought it was going to be. I went ahead and took the liberty of pressure washing everything. I like to take liberties. And never could find a piece of angle, so I dug around through my scrap pile and I found this piece of channel. I think it'll work. So I'm going to get to measuring and cutting some holes. And wouldn't you know it, the only light fixture that's out in the clean room happens to be right over the drill press. So anyway, I've measured to the best of my ability with a tape measure and a steel rule. So just in case I'm off just a little bit, I'm punching these holes out just a little oversized. So this is what I've come up with so far. Those are the holes we just drilled. I got it bolted to the hitch. My welding machine needs to be serviced, so I'm probably gonna get one of my welder buddies to zip it on here for me. But here's the deal. I'm not gonna be heavy hauling with this truck, and I'm certainly not gonna be hot-shotting over the road with it. So this will suit me just fine for my purposes. These hitches new are kind of expensive, and even the bracket kit for this truck to my door is going to be somewhere between $250 $300, and I gave like 75 bucks for the hitch, so I'm not going to be in it really any more than that. I found this piece in the scrap pile, so it didn't cost me anything. Well, I got it all marked and measured where it's going to go on the frame. It's got my ball just a couple inches in front of center line of the axle. You can kind of see the top of that tire on the other side, and that hitch is going to be in front of that. That helps distribute some weight to the front axle. And so I know what some of the rule followers are going to ding me on, and that is welding on a truck frame. So would I weld on a new truck frame? The answer is no, I would not. If this was a new truck or even a nice old truck that had a lot of life left in it, I would just buy the correct mounting kit. But here's the deal. This truck is old. It's got 380,000 miles on it. So realistically, it's toward the end of its life cycle, and I have seen and used many a trucks that had the gooseneck hitch welded on, and those trucks ran hundreds of thousands of miles without any issue. But like I said, I'm going to gusset or brace in some capacity upon my welder's recommendation. Anyway, I'm going to let him see what needs to be done, but I think it's going to work out fine. All right, let me show you what we came up with. Yeah, turned out really well. In the event that I ever wanted to, let's say this truck craters and I get another truck and I want to put a gooseneck in it, this piece is bolted in, and this is your biggest part of your money on a hitch. So I can unbolt that, take this out still, and put it in another truck. Probably won't never do that, but you never can tell. But now, I really, really hope I measured right as far as my bed clearance right here to the frame. This is 1 inch, and I measured that I would have 1.25 inches right there for the bed. You know what they say, measure twice, weld once. Well, I measured 3 times, but that's not necessarily saying much, so we'll find out when I stick the bed on there, but I think it'll work. And so I'm going to shoot some paint on these welds and clean this thing up just a little bit. I hit it with a wire wheel, shot some paint on it. In fact, the paint's still wet. If I was in the Rust Belt, you know, an area of the country where they had a lot of problems with rust on vehicles, I would have spent a little more time on getting the hitch painted really, stripped down, painted really well. But where we're at, we don't have vehicle rust problems. I mean, for example, that truck over there is a 84 flare side, and it has run every road around here for decades, and it doesn't have a bit of rust problem. This truck is old as the hills also, not as old as the flare side, but it's got 380,000 miles on it, and there's no rust on this truck to speak of, other than, you know, your surface rust you're going to get naturally. But we just don't have those kinds of problems here. And, you know, for the rule followers, if I were going to be heavy hauling with this rig, I would have maybe done stuff a little different. For example, if you're hauling a lot of weight, I would recommend utilizing more of that frame. I'm just utilizing basically the top half of the frame. I would have went down further with some mounts, and probably would have used thicker material. But you know, this isn't a new truck with 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. It's just not. I'll put it this way: that hitch will hold up to anything this truck can safely handle. It's braced. It's got gussets everywhere. It'll hold up just fine. So I'm ready for the next phase of my little project. Before I put the bed back on it, I'm going to do a few little things, like I'm going to shorten this handle a little bit. I'm going to work on my trailer light wiring just a little bit. I need to adjust the rear brakes, rotate the tires. In fact, it's got, the brakes on it are new-ish, so I know they're not worn out, but I may pull a drum and see what's going on while they're backing off. It's not a huge problem. I just got to adjust them every, you know, once a year, basically. Shouldn't be having to do that, so I might look into that. And the rest is just maintenance and cleaning, and this thing's going to be ready to go. And I'm looking forward to reviving this old truck to use in my new business venture, which I will be revealing what that is shortly, because I'm taking you guys along for the ride. And as much as I enjoy working on stuff, the older I get, the more I really want to just work with stuff instead of just on stuff all the time. So we're going to see some of that, and if you stick around, I will see you in the next one. People don't think when they go crazy and jump off a bridge, there may be somebody living under it.